Tennessee basketball has a new assistant coach, and he's not the typical assistant coach that the Vols hire. Traditionally, Rick Barnes, while his coaching tree is not great, he's done a pretty good job throughout his time of hiring up and comers who he expected to do very, very well. We're talking guys like Rod Clark, who just went to Indiana, but there have been other guys too over the years that even have head coaching jobs now. The George Mason Patriots head basketball coach. I'm trying to remember his name if I'm not mistaken. Um, it's not the current coach, the previous coach of George Mason, Kim English. Kim English, that's right. Kim English, who had such success at George Mason. He then took the job at Providence. Guys like that, he finds up and comers who have a lot of promise. They don't always work out. Many times they don't. That's how coaching trees are. But Rick Barnes typically goes for the younger guys. Well, this time he hired Steve McClain, who is 62 years old. Now, Steve McClain comes to Tennessee and joins Amaro Morgan, who is an up-and-comer who was just hired to fill the vacant slot Clark left. How does Steve McClain fit in? Well, former Tennessee guard Lucas Campbell, who was an assistant, is actually transitioning to a new role, which is Director of Player Personnel and Recruiting Coordinator. So this is going to be a fit for Campbell to be able to recruit. McClain can be an on-court assistant who is a veteran. McClain's success, he spent 3 years in the early 90s at Hutchinson Community College, going 27-7, 29-5, and winning the Kansas JL Community College Conference in his second year. And this is from 91 to 94. So he went 27-7 in 91-92, went 29-5 in 92-93, and won the Kansas JL Community College Conference. And then in 93-94, went 35-4 and was the National Junior College Division I national champion. After that, how about before that? He was a junior college assistant at a bunch of different schools. But then after he was at junior college, he took an assistant job with the TCU Horned Frogs, where he was for 4 years. Before he became a head coach in Division I basketball. So he was an assistant for the Horned Frogs during the mid-90s. And TCU during that time was led by Billy Tubbs. Okay, so Billy Tubbs was the head coach when Steve McClain was his assistant. For those who don't know, Tubbs had a lot of great success at Oklahoma in the 80s, reaching the Elite Eight in 84-85, playing for the national title in 87-88, reaching the Sweet 16 in 88-89. Also took Lamar to the Sweet 16 in the late 70s. And then while Steve McClain was there, helped TCU go to 4 straight winning seasons with Billy Tubbs, including his last year with Billy Tubbs, helping them win the Western Athletic Conference Championship when they were 27-6. From there, McClain got the head coaching job at Wyoming. And in his first year at Wyoming in the WAC, went 18-10. They moved over to the Mountain West a year later and 19-12. Then they went 20-10, won the Mountain West regular season, and in 2001-2002 went 22-9, made the NCAA tournament, repeating as WAC champions and going to the second round of the NCAA tournament. He coached at Wyoming for 8 years and had 2 losing seasons later, but did finish 17-15 his last year. And after coaching at Wyoming, he became an assistant at Colorado, an assistant at Indiana, and then took the job with the UIC Flames, University of Illinois Chicago, and couldn't recreate the magic there. Went 5-25 his first year, but then building back up 17-19, 20-16, 16-16, 18-17. He's 324 and 224 all time as a head coach. Recently, he was an assistant under Tom Crean's staff at Georgia, and then he's been an assistant, ironically, at Texas. So he comes with a ton of experience at Tennessee and is not the profile of a guy Rick Barnes hires, but he understands basketball to an elite degree. And this leads me to believe one thing that I kind of already believed about Rick Barnes, but now I'm convinced on it. And it's Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Better. Rick Barnes is going all in on winning a national title within the next 2 years. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
All right, it's Bank On It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. I've got the poll question up. Let's have a little bit of fun. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? To develop young men, which Rick Barnes has been in the business of coaching to do his whole life. He cares about developing people more than he does even winning. That's just who he is. That's his faith. That's how committed he is from a character perspective. So to develop young men, or he's all in on a national title. I think he's all in on a national title. I think Rick Barnes, this is a sign that Rick Barnes wants to win a national title before he retires. And he also knows his limitations. What's been Rick Barnes' biggest issue? Rick Barnes has struggled with one-and-done 5-stars and fitting them into a solid program he's running. He's now got a solid program. He's got a bunch of veterans joining the team this year who will buy in, but he's got to make sure Nate Ament somehow works in. That's where you get Steve McClain to come in, who can just focus on an X's and O's thing to help develop Nate Ament and figure out the best way to utilize him, because Rick Barnes is focused on development. It's not going to really get through to Ament, who wants to go straight to the NBA. So I think this is a big move for Rick Barnes, because part of his belief in developing people is developing assistant coaches too. So by hiring an assistant coach in his 60s, I think he's all in on trying to win a national title. And that's the poll question. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? To develop young men. He's all in on a national title. Now, McClain was on Rodney Terry's staff at Texas. So and Rodney Terry obviously didn't work out at Texas. So he's been on a few staffs that didn't work out, but that doesn't make him not a good assistant coach. I mean, he has had success at different places everywhere he's been, and he does know basketball. And just his experience in general is a huge plus. So Rick Barnes and McClain together could provide a level of experience, while Amara Morgan provides the youth, as Lucas Campbell and Morgan provide the recruiting. I think it's a good team of guys, okay? And I think it's enough to – Rick Barnes has somebody who can help run things from a head coaching perspective while he's out. Look, this is him. This is him going all in on a national title. He ain't trying to develop head coaches anymore. He wants a national title before his career ends. And I mean, who can blame him? Okay, he's accomplished everything you could possibly accomplish without a national title. So I think Rick Barnes going all in on the national title makes perfect sense. I think this is a very, very, very solid hire for Tennessee. And it makes me somewhat reevaluate the whole Nate Ament 5-star power forward pickup, or 5-star forward pickup. For those of you who don't know, I know Nate Ament is the biggest recruit in Tennessee history, the highest rated recruit in Tennessee basketball history. I was never as excited about him for the Vols, because my argument has been that Rick Barnes does not develop. He develops talent well, He does not mold one-and-done guys as freshmen into his system well, because one-and-done guys aren't looking to be developed. They're looking for a pit stop for the NBA, and they're looking at, they already are projected draft picks in the NBA. The NBA is already scouting them. They're in college for a year. They're just looking for the best place for them to shine and look like superstars. And it's always hard for them to develop into a system like what Rick Barnes wants to do. So with that in mind, I've worried about it. Rick Barnes' history has never been that good with one-and-done 5-stars. Again, only once. He's had 9 one-and-done 5-star freshmen on his teams throughout his career. And only one of those times did he make it out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. That was with Julian Phillips in 2022-23. And we all know Julian Phillips had very little to do with that Tennessee basketball team getting to the Sweet 16. So that's the issue with Nate Ament. At the same time, a guy like Steve McClain, who's a veteran who understands X's and O's, I think helps that a lot. And I think Barnes knows it helps it. So he's sacrificing a little bit of his whole reason for being into coaching, which is to develop people to try and win. And that's an interesting sign. That means Rick Barnes is clearly all in on trying to win. And I think the rest of the world should watch out on that. Why did Rick Barnes hire an assistant in his 60s? Looks like the rest of you guys agree with me. 91% say he's all in on a national title. 9% say he did it to develop young men. Yeah, it's to win a national title. I think I can safely say that at this point.